We are just 9 days away from the NFL draft, and Colorado's Shedeur Sanders will hold one last private workout Thursday in Boulder, Colorado with the New York Giants. Although Shedeur is expected to be a first-round pick, 17 players confirmed their attendance to next week's draft in Green Bay. However, Sanders was not one of them. Peter back here with me, and we bring in Ryan Clark, RC. Great to have you with us, and I'm coming to you on this. Ryan, where does Shedeur need to go?
I think Shedeur needing to go to a place doesn't necessarily have to do so much with whether it's New York or Pittsburgh or the New Orleans Saints, as much as it's a place that Shedeur Sanders can go and prosper, a place that is ready for Shedeur Sanders, not only as a player, but a personality. And I think if I had to pick that place, it would be the Pittsburgh Steelers. Not so much just because of who Mike Tomlin is, not so much of just because of what they have as a roster structure, but because Shedeur Sanders needs to be somewhere that he's embraced. Shedeur Sanders needs to be somewhere where there is a sense of family. And anybody who has ever walked through the Pittsburgh Steelers facility understands the environments that the Rooneys have created. That's a place that's all about championships. It's not about how big can your personality be. It's not about how much of a brand you can build. It's about how do you help this organizations win another Lombardi trophy. I believe that takes pressure off of Shedeur. I believe you put him in a place where he won't be the biggest personality. And also you surround him with people that will do whatever they need to allow him to succeed as a player and a person. And that's the sort of environment, especially at Jackson State, especially at Colorado, that he's used to.
Everything he has ever done as he has gone to a program and he has lifted them to new heights. He did that at Jackson State. He did it at Colorado. I will say this. The news came out, and Adam Schefter broke it, that the Giants will be flying to Boulder, Colorado, and have a private workout with Shedeur on Thursday. This is not nothing. This is a team that sent 13 different people to his pro day a couple of weeks ago. They had a top 30 visit, and they had dinner and took him out in New Jersey. Joe Shane himself has been to multiple Colorado games and went to a Colorado practice. I would not just dismiss this as window dressing 9 days from the draft, especially with the fact they have 150 to 200 prospects that they want to go through and build their big board, and yet multiple members of the Giants organization are flying to Boulder, Colorado to get another conversation and another private workout with Shedeur Sanders. All that said, gosh, I am with Ryan Clark on this one. If you could pick an ideal spot, and ego aside of slipping in the draft all the way to the 20s and what that might mean to not only Shedeur, but to the family that, hey, look, here is a guy that's being hyped up and in my mock draft as second or third overall pick, goes in the 20s to Pittsburgh. If you can swallow that pill, there is no better place for Shedeur Sanders than to go to Pittsburgh, and that is irrelevant of whether Aaron Rodgers is there or not. Pittsburgh is a stable organization, and he is not going to be asked to suddenly do it all on his shoulders. He is joining an organization, a franchise, a coach, and star players, and guys like TJ Watt, and guys like Minkah Fitzpatrick, and of course guys like Cam Hayward, who are leaders in this league, where he can learn from and help take them to the next generation.
I don't disagree with anything that y'all said. Both of y'all would know this better than me. What I would say to you is that analysts questioning, whether it's the right fit due to his background and the shotgun-heavy offense at Jackson State and then ultimately Colorado. We all know what his life was like with him playing behind a weak offensive line his first year in Colorado. He almost got slaughtered, for crying out loud. It got to a point where Deion Sanders wasn't just a coach, but he was a daddy, needing to look out for his son because he was getting slaughtered. That's how weak the offensive line was the first go-round before it improved last season. I want to get to a bigger discussion, and I'm so glad that both of you are here, especially you, RC. I spoke to Peter about this yesterday. I'm going to bring this up again. I'm very uncomfortable with what has happened with Shedeur Sanders. I understand it's the NFL draft, and I understand things happen, and you evaluate, you scout, you see what you see. I get that part. We talked about Cam Ward. We went literally from talking about whether or not him or Cam Ward should be the number 1 overall pick, to Shedeur Sanders being a top 3 pick, to Shedeur Sanders possibly falling to number 6. Then we hear number 9 at New Orleans. Now we're talking about the Steelers at number 21. What the hell happened? Last time I checked, he ain't playing any games. Had a pro day that went pretty well. What did he do to drop? And see, I listened to you. I've listened to Prime speaking about this in the past. And of course, Louis Riddick speaking about this. And here's the thing that I want to use this as an opportunity to remind everybody. Primetime Deion Sanders might be the greatest athlete, clearly one of the greatest athletes that we've ever seen in history. Best cornerback ever. We got that part. You know what Ryan Clark and Louis Riddick and others raved about? All the bravado and all of this other stuff. The professionalism, the dedication, the excellence, and commitment. All of these intangibles that supposedly we look for in any athlete, especially the quarterback. This brother seems to have it, and as the days progress, his stature or his status seems to dwindle. I find it inexplicable. I find it alarming, and I find it like almost insulting from the standpoint that this is Deion Sanders' son we're talking about here. We know he has imprints with his own son. He's coached him all his life, and we've seen how great he can be. And we know what Mike Tomlin brings to the table in terms of leadership and culture in Pittsburgh, and you just finished talking about the Rooneys, RC. I just want to give it to you, RC, and just explain to all of us, both of y'all, by the way, just explain what the hell is going on.
People haven't done their evaluations to the point that they have now. And what we knew when we watched college football last year was that Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders were the top two quarterback prospects coming into this draft. Much like we knew years back that it was Alex Smith and Aaron Rodgers, and Alex Smith goes number 1 overall because he wins the battle of who's the top quarterback, and then we don't see Aaron Rodgers go into the mid-20s. I think the larger problem has become that if Shedeur Sanders falls to 9, that it's not 2 or it's not 1. Well, great quarterbacks and Hall of Fame quarterbacks are picked at 9. In Patrick Mahomes' case, they're picked at 10. In Ben Roethlisberger's case, they're picked at 11. In Aaron Rodgers' case, they're picked in the mid-20s. In Joe Montana's case, they're picked in the 3rd round. And so I don't necessarily believe that the chatter we are hearing about Shedeur Sanders maybe going here or maybe going there is in any way some sort of testament to him not being the player we assumed he was at the end of the season. Mel is making his mock because he's talking to people. Field is making his mock because he is talking to people. And it may be that Travis Hunter at 2 for Cleveland is the best player, that Abdul Carter at 3 for the New York Giants is the best player. That doesn't mean Shedeur Sanders isn't going to be really good. And if he falls to 9 and that's the New Orleans Saints, that's still a great place for Shedeur Sanders. Here's to me the difference between Shedeur and somebody like Jaden Daniels, who goes number 2 last year behind Caleb Williams. Jaden Daniels had some things that you just cannot teach. And those things that you couldn't teach, you could touch. You can touch that when he got in the open field, he went for 250 yards against Florida. You can touch that this guy is pinpoint accurate and pushing the football down the field to 2 first-round wide receivers who we saw, even when they had the smallest crease, he understood where it could be. The things about Shedeur Sanders that make him great are the intangibles, right? The anticipation, the study, the professionalism. But none of those things wow you. So where he may not go to, he's still going to go first round. He's still going to go high. And let me be clear, if the Pittsburgh Steelers get him, I believe it's because they move up at some point, not because he falls to 21.
And I think it's a great point that, Drew Brees went in the 2nd round. And you can go through the list of guys who have gone, and it was for the very reasons that RC just laid out. Drew Brees didn't have a huge arm. Drew Brees wasn't 6'4". Shedeur Sanders, from what the scouts are saying, does not have a blue chip arm, does not have blue chip speed, and yet is really smart, is a wonderful leader, took a risk on himself to go to Jackson State and then to Colorado, 2 programs that were nowhere on the planet of our national conversation. I remember seeing a Colorado game where not only did Game Day attend, but the Fox pregame attend. You had 2 different pregame shows at a Colorado game. And that's what they did. They came, he and Travis Hunter and, of course, Dion, and they came and they built something to something beautiful. And he's going to get his jersey retired this weekend at the spring game, and he deserves that. If you're asking me to tell you why he's falling on these mock drafts, I don't think anyone was doing him any favors by putting him at 1, 2, or 3 in a draft that included Cam Ward, who I believe is viewed as the better quarterback prospect, Travis Hunter, who is a once-in-a-generation two-way player, and Abdul Carter, who's the best pass rusher and an absolute game wrecker. The mock drafts and the media and us talking up Shedeur in that way from the months January, February to March, that did him no favors. So that now if he slides or he goes at 9, which is an amazing honor to be a top 10 pick, or he goes in the teens or the 20s or even in the early second round, it's viewed as some great disappointment. No, use that as a chip on your shoulder, and a team will be very happy to have a motivated
Absolutely.
Shedeur.
And on Stephen A, we got Peter taking over the A-list, bringing his A-game with some NFL action. All right, Peter, let's get it.
I want a cigar, I want a drink, and I'm new here, but I'm not new to the NFL draft. Here are top 5 NFL draft wildcards, guys, who no one knows where they're going to go and who we'll be talking about throughout Thursday, Friday, and maybe even Saturday. Number 5, you watched him on Saturdays, Jalen Milroe, the quarterback for Alabama. Now, you might be saying, Jalen Milroe, we've been talking about Shedeur and Cam Ward and Jackson. Guys, Jalen Milroe was invited to the draft by the NFL to attend the draft in person on Thursday. And guess what? He said, yeah, I'll be there. Jalen Milroe is not being mocked as a first-round quarterback anywhere, but someone knows something to invite him to sit in the green room and watch the draft. Milroe, of course, one of the most electric players, and I spoke to someone in an NFL front office and said, hey, look, you put this guy in a package his first year, and you let him run wild, but also let him learn an offense, he could be a first-round pick. Jalen Milroe, no one knows where he's going, but the NFL invited him to the draft. Worth noting. Number 4, a name you might not know, but you will. Harold Fannin. Who is Harold Fannin? He went to Bowling Green, and he led all of college football last year in receptions and in receiving yards. This is a guy who last season for Bowling Green had 117 catches and nearly 1,600 yards. Is he Travis Kelce? Probably not. But is he someone who gets open and can catch a ball? Yes. There are 2 other higher-rated tight ends, but I'm looking at Harold Fannin, who broke all sorts of records in the MAC, whether he can go in the first or second round. Number 3 is a fascinating one. His name is Tet McMillan. He went to Arizona, and he's likely the first wide receiver off the draft. But I have never, in all of my years talking about first-round prospects, had a more split decision on what this guy can be. Some GMs tell me, oh, he can go 4th overall. That could be the Patriots pick. He's the next Mike Evans. He's 6'4", he's amazing. And other ones are like, this guy took plays off. I don't know if he likes football. I don't know if he's got a passion. Fascinating that he's the top-ranked wide receiver on many boards, and yet we have no idea where he is going to go. He played volleyball. Someone said to me, he played volleyball. That's great. Another person said, he played volleyball. That's not great. I don't know what that means. Number 2, we're going to Ashton Genty, who is a stud running back. Where do you draft a running back? We know last year Saquon and Derrick Henry and even Bijan and Jahmyr Gibbs were like, you get the running back. If you can get the running back, you get them. And yet historically, we don't see running backs still valued the way they should be. Coming out of the draft, this guy might be the most talented prospect in this entire class. And yet I don't know whether he's a top 10 pick or if he slips because of his position. And number 1, I wouldn't be lying if I said this isn't the guy. We don't know. We don't. You're seeing 2 on this mock draft. You're seeing 3 on this one. You're seeing 6 on this one. You're seeing 9 on this one. 21 on this one. Molly, I have no idea where Shedeur Sanders is going, and we are 9 days from the NFL draft. I think he is the most fascinating quarterback prospect, and wait till you hear this one, since Johnny Manziel. In that everyone knows who he is, he's a household name, and he has a much different story than Johnny Manziel. But we don't know where he's going to go, and if he does slide, you better believe more and more and more people will be tuning into the NFL draft to see where exactly he goes. The most fascinating wild card in this entire class. That's my top 5.
All right, I like it. RC, you're up first. What do you think?
Yeah, I think it's a great list. Obviously, Shedeur Sanders at number 1 is what stands out, and I think he's perfect on that. I want to talk a little bit about T-Mac, the wide receiver from Arizona. Coming into this season, when you watched his film from last year, you thought to yourself, this guy is a surefire top 5 pick, a better wide receiver prospect than we saw Travis Hunter. But this year, there were plays taken off. The production was down. He didn't run great when he ran at his pro day. And so now there are all of these things that are making you think to yourself, okay, this guy can't go where we previously thought he was. But more fascinating at the quarterback position to me than even Shedeur Sanders is not where Jalen Milroe will go. It's who Jalen Milroe will become. This dude goes 4.37 at his pro day. We've seen the explosive plays. There are days when you watch him play in games like Georgia from early on in the season that you thought he should have been drafted ahead of Cam Ward coming into this draft. And then you watch the rest of this season and you see the inaccuracies, you see the inconsistencies, and you have zero idea what this dude could be as a passer. If Jalen Milroe falls into the right place, we could be looking back years from now, looking forward years from now, and saying to ourselves that Jalen Milroe was the best pick of this entire draft.
I have nothing to say other than I have an issue with number 2 and 3 because from a running back and a wide receiver perspective, both of them are considered arguably number 1 at their position entering this draft. I don't consider that wild cards. That's my only issue with the list.
Delivery, analysis.
You already
Peter,
got some
don't leave me hanging.
negativity, man.
Good job.
I'm saying they're not wild cards. They're number 1 at their positions.
You always got some negativity.
They're number 1 at their position, so that's not a wild card. That's negative.
It was his first day list. He did a great job. Peter,
I'm out.
You crushed it.